Sometimes when I'm talking about outboard gear such as equalizers, I have the feeling that we're talking a little bit about cars. Some of you guys just want to have something that is flashy and that is instantly like recognizable. Oh wow, there it is, that's the unit, it's pushing everything. And some of you guys out there just want to get the job done, you know, having an equalizer that gets you from point A to point B. And I can understand both sides. Sometimes I'm more on the flashy side and sometimes I just want to work. So having something that is both like really great to work with is a versatile tool and is also like a really amazing sounding piece of kit is crucial for me. And the HDE gives me both. I came across the HDE-250A when I was watching a masterclass from Robert Babich. Robert is well known, he was Rob Acid, and he's also very well known for his mastering work. And he uses an HDE since 2005, I believe, or 2007, so for a really long time now. And I was instantly hooked when I saw all those controls, of course, all those buttons, and I really fell in love with it. And then some years later, I met Steffen Müller, the guy who builds these beautiful units. We talked a lot, and it turned out that Steffen started out as a musician. In the early 90s, he was the Microwave Prince. That was his artist name. And he actually had a hit that was played on the Love Parade. So go check out the YouTube videos about the Microwave Prince. Sorry, Steffen. But also, if you are interested in his music, you can actually buy now the 25th anniversary LP right now. So congratulations on that, Steffen. Steffen not only started out as an electronic musician, he also built his own gear. So all his hits, all the music that he made was recorded and summed on a mixing desk that he built by himself. That is crazy. He was always a freak and a nerd, and he wanted to build his own stuff. And then in the early 2000s, he was more interested in mastering the music. So when he started to master, he asked himself, what would I need from a mastering equalizer? Because he wasn't satisfied with the options that were available at the time. Steffen has an own design philosophy and an own philosophy when it comes to mastering. He told me that he don't want to add too much sauce. He wants instead emphasize something that is already there. So when you go to Steffen for mastering, he will listen to what your track has to offer, and then he will start to work with those elements instead of like putting too much overdrive or saturation into that or too much compression. He will actually try to work with your track and what's already there. And that is deeply entrenched into the design philosophy of the HDE-250A as well, but more on the sound later. Before we talk about the general features of the HDE-250A, I want to emphasize the fact that these are custom built for you. So you have a say in everything, from the faceplate color to the LED color, to individual features like input and output transformers, up to the gain range and the step pots. You can decide a lot of different features. So you might find different HDEs around the internet and in videos. These are built for you. I've chosen a specific set of features, but you might find that you don't need certain features or you need something different. Talk to Steffen about this, and he is really a nice guy and he will help you with everything. When you go to Steffen and ask for an HDE, you actually start a conversation about your music making process and what you want to achieve with the HDE. And that is something that I find really interesting, because sometimes you have an idea on what you want to have from a gear. But then when you talk about it and you think about it and you actually make deliberate choices because you can decide on so many things, you will learn that some of the things you thought might be important to you are not that important in the reality. And that is something really, really cool once you engage with Custom Audio Germany. So generally, the HDE-250A is a stereo equalizer. So we have the left-hand side for the left signal and the right-hand side for the right signal. I would categorize the 5 bands into 3 groups. We have the low mids and the low end. We have a middle band and we have a high band. But you will see that these categorizations don't make really sense because you have a very wide range. What I can say though is you have 2 bands on the outer side which have the same frequency range, and those 2 have the same frequency range. The band in the middle has its own frequency range, and we talk about this. So we have 2 low bass and low mid bands, and these range from 15 Hertz, which is crazy low, up to 820 Hertz, and this goes for both. Then we have the middle band, which is 130 Hertz up to 8.2 kilohertz. And then we have the 2 high, mid to high bands, which go from 420 Hertz up to 25K. So as you can see, this is a crazy range. I've never seen anything like this in any other hardware equalizer. This is absolutely mind-blowing, and this speaks volumes about the flexibility of the HDE. There is another caveat, and these bands are bell curves, but the outer bands, as you can see, have a shelf curve. So we have the quality factor of each band on the bottom, and 4.0 in quality factor means very narrow, and if we turn it to the right, the band gets wider. So narrow, wider. And if I turn the outer bands up to the right, you hear a click, and you also see an LED which indicates that we now have a shelving curve. So on all those outer bands, I can actually engage very nice, gentle shelving curves. That's it from the general side of the EQ curves. So on the top, we have the gain range. Mine is from -10 up to 10 dB, plus 10 dB. And I can set every individual frequency range by inserting each band. I find this very helpful because sometimes I don't want to work on the lower end. I just want to have some cleaning of the mids, and I just activate the mids and then I work from there. Of course, if I'm in stereo, I would have to do this for both sides, naturally. Then in the middle, as you probably can tell by now, is the frequency, and on the bottom is the Q factor, so the width of the actual filter. I've decided for stepped pots. So I have 41 steps. These are for every knob, and I would emphasize to use those because I actually like step pots in this case, because you have such a crazy wide frequency range. It's actually amazing to be able to set those very precise for each side, because you have to work on both sides at the same time in order to do stereo. And I also went for a gain knob for the left and the right side. So if I have some problems, I can start to actually increase or decrease the volume for each band and can compensate for whatever is happening here. That is really important for me. All right, so these are some of my individual features. What I also decided for is MS. And if I activate this MS button, actually what will happen is that I now have the mono signal on the left-hand side and the stereo information on the right-hand side. And this is absolutely mental, because that means if I'm working on a dance track and I just want to have the kick drum a little bit more boomy, or I want to control the hi-hats or something like that, I just go for the low low band, maybe go in a shelving mode and then decide for like 70 Hertz. And then I can actually just EQ the mono signal. Absolutely mind-blowing. But what this also doing is I can actually widen or make the mix narrower, because then if I engage the MS setting, the two bands which previously have been assigned to the left and the right channel become now the mono signal and the stereo signal. So if I increase the mix, if I increase the right pot, I actually make the stereo signal wider because I make it louder, and this will sound like I'm making the whole mix wider. This is a great feature. So 80% of the time I use the HDE in MS mode, just because it's so natural to work in. Once you understand what you're doing, it's actually great, because okay, I just have some problems with my kick drum, it's too boomy, or it has some problems. All right, I know probably around 200 Hertz there is a problem. I make it very wide, the band, and just decrease some of the mono information, and I know, okay, I'm under control. The same applies to the side signal. So I do a lot of deep house. My pads turn out to be very full of energy, and I know that. So sometimes I better go to those settings, and I know, okay, I just decrease the low end on the sides because my pads are too energetic, and I can then do that and be fine with it. I really like that. Yeah, that's it really from that side. So my custom features are, I have step pots, I have individual band selection. You could also use something like 6 dB or plus 12 dB. I find the 10 dB range to be very good, because it's in the sweet spot. It gives me a lot of control, and I'm really happy with that. And then there is something which I actually really enjoy, and that is the input and the output transformer. So you can actually have, for the input and for the output or output transformers, and these are hard bypassed with a relay. The same, by the way, goes for the input. For the EQ as a whole. You can actually, when you go out of the HDE, this is actually a hard bypass. The signal goes from the output straight from the input to the output and back in. I do this normally now with my SPL Hermes, so you can see that here. I have this set to bypass, and I've set the B channel on my Hermes for the HDE-250A. I can see that here in the display, and this is how I work. So back to the transformers. Actually, you have two different transformers. You have an input transformer, which is a Lundell LL 1540, which Steffen describes as making like a softer transients response, and this is true. So if you want softer transients, like suitable for jazz or like lo-fi sounds, because you want to roll off some of the transient information, you would activate the input transformer. Then you have also an output transformer, and that output transformer is a Carnhill VTB, I believe, 2020-81. And that one will have a little bit of a low end roll-off. So you will have a little bit less low end, but this is actually perceived as a nice increase of the high end. So this is like a really nice way of shaping the tracks a little bit. So if the track is too bass heavy and also too muddy, I would go for the output transformer, and then it's like it goes like from you know, too much bass and too less highs to like, oh yeah, now I'm like in a really nice sweet spot. Listen a little bit to what's happening when I'm engaging the input and the output transformer. What is happening with the transients? What is happening to the low end and to the highs? You will find a lot of details that will come out, and the overall sound texture. Now let's talk about the sound. I already told you about the design philosophy behind the HDE, and that is emphasizing what is already there. That doesn't mean that the HDE is not an amazing sounding equalizer by itself. Actually, this is one of the most beautiful and transparent sounding equalizers that I've ever come across. The sheer flexibility is staggering. You have so much control over the frequency bands and everything around it that you can really pinpoint a frequency and just work it and carve it out, whilst maintaining always a very transparent, silky smooth texture. That's what I would describe the HDE to sound like. Some people, they worked with the HDE and then were like, oh no, it doesn't sound like interesting at all. And I would disagree. It gives you a great flexible tool. The low end is punchy as hell. You can really carve out kick drums in the mix and on the mix bus. Single sounds, you can really add a lot of character, and it's just amazing to work with. I use it in 80% of the time as an MS equalizer. So I can just dial in some bass and some control and just like airy transparency to the drum bus, whilst having the delays or stuff that is going also on in the drums just having unaffected. And this is just something I really enjoy when working with the HDE. It is just one of the units that I've learned to love. The more I use it, the more I like it. And it's just like, at some point you are like, you will have so much muscle memory that you instantly know where to go. You're not like, oh yeah, this is like there, and then just like, oh, I control it. And it is just a pleasure to work with. And that's the most important thing. You need to enjoy what you are going to do with the device. Otherwise, you won't use it. And people tell me, yeah, but why getting a transparent outboard equalizer when you can have something like FabFilter or whatever? I love the FabFilter Q3. and the other options that are available. But these don't sound alike. Stefan really knows his stuff, and every Custom Audio Germany HDE is measured very accurate when it comes to the frequencies, even though when you turn in the same frequencies with a software equalizer, they don't sound the same. Especially like cutting frequencies, I find the HDE to sound way more musical, and you will see that in some of the demos. I really enjoy the Custom Audio Germany HDE-250A, and I get it. It's a very expensive piece of gear, but like I said, my philosophy is instead of like having a lot of gear, yeah, right, looking around all those gear, but instead of like having too much stuff that I won't use, I want to have something that I will use, and I use everything in my studio. If I don't use it, it will go out in 6 months. That's the rule that I have, and the HDE never left me. This was just an overview of the HDE. If you have more detailed questions or you would like to know more about certain aspects, I'm really happy to answer them in the comment section below and also show you more audio demos. If you're interested in more demos, just write them down in the comment section again, and I'll upload as much as you guys need. Okay, not as much, but I'll keep you posted on new stuff, because I think it's really valuable to have such a such a great tool made by a guy that is really passionate about music and about sound in general. Thanks for watching, guys, and I see you in the next video.